Oh yeah, we're back. Okay, so look, I have planned to do a video on this topic, what to do with that gold in Dungeons and Dragons. I think I promised to do it like a long time ago, and today is the day. Today is the day I'm going to actually talk about what you would do with all that gold. It should be a no-brainer. There's so many ideas out there nowadays. But you will find the start time for this video down in the description for anybody who wants to get past all of my waffle and my setup and so forth, because I am live streaming as I normally tend to do live streams. Now, normally with my live streams, I present everything first and then I open it up to questions and answers near the end. I'm going to follow the same format. So go hashtag question if you have any questions. If you have any feedback and you want it to stand out from any of the live chat, particularly if the room starts to get a bit busy, then make sure to go hashtag Fred or something like that so it sort of sticks out and I can see it. Okay, so let's settle down, so get comfortable, and let's talk about gold and how to use it in your Dungeons and Dragons game, because of course there's plenty of ways to use it. There really is. Okay. Right, we're going to go straight to my face. We're going to start with the face shot. The face shot, yes, the face shot. Okay. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e. But the topic for today actually is not so much just generic stuff. It's more about how are you going to use all of that gold that you have collected in your Dungeons & Dragons 5e game. Because apparently a lot of people don't know what to do with that money and all that gold and those coins and those silver and the copper and electrum and the platinum. Well, there's actually plenty of different ways you can use that gold. And I'm not suggesting that you can trade gold for experience points, but to be honest, I don't think that's actually a big problem. It's been done before, why not do it again? But that's not really what I was doing this video all about. Okay, the topic for today is about how you can use different options you can use in the game as a dungeon master or a player. So, what can you do with that gold? Apparently, people think there are no specific mechanics tied into the Dungeons and Dragons game that allow you to use your gold. But there is actually a mechanic, and it's called lifestyle costs. It's in the player's handbook. Okay, you'll find it in other supplements. They talk about lifestyle costs. So that's something that will actually chew up the money. It's actually there. It's specifically designed for that very purpose, so that you can decide sort of how you will spend your hard-earned cash. Now, fair enough, as you level up and you get more and more gold and coins and so forth and more wealth, then lifestyle costs kind of going to get sort of supplemented by the fact that you will still accrue more wealth than you can possibly spend, apparently. Well, that's what they have downtime activities for. And my gosh, there are a lot of different downtime activities. So when people say they don't know what to do with their gold, I've got nothing I can use it for, I really feel like that is a lot of nonsense, honestly, because there's plenty of options available to you. I'm not going to go through all of the downtime options because there are multiple books put out that talk about downtime. Unearthed Arcana, they put out additional downtime activities in the Unearthed Arcana. And they release downtime activities in the new books they publish. All of which, to a large degree, I'm going to be talking about right now. I can tell you right now that I've seen more than a few players gamble away all of their player characters' money, and they've been quite happy to do that, and it's been perfectly fine. If you want to get really funky and you feel like you need to have something a bit more substantial, then of course you can go into being a landowner, so buying a piece of property, maybe a house, a manor. You want to go up right up and get that castle, get a stronghold. You're going to have your own castle grey skull if you really want to. So yes, you can buy big assets. You could go and buy yourself a ship. Now, this could be a flying ship. It could be a ship that sails on the seas. It could be a land vehicle of some kind. Maybe you just go and get yourself a balloon so you can float around from one location to the next. Speeding up travel is always nice, right? And of course, you've got to maintain the capital asset. It's going to have a cost to it. So keeping a castle functioning. There's all of the additional crew and services and people that you need to hire to run that particular place. So if you've got a house or a castle or a stronghold or a ship, there's a crew to pay. So there's lots of ways of actually chewing up and using up all of that hard-earned cash that you thought you couldn't do anything with. Look, as a dungeon master, you can absolutely decide, well, if they're going to carry around lots and lots of gold and treasure and gems and various other coins, I'm going to steal it. Why not? Now, you can have thieves steal it. You can have the ruler tax them. Now, these are one of those options that players really don't like. But taxation, you might be able to sell that idea. Although it's not the sort of thing, even though it makes a lot of sense, that people want to have integrated into their fantasy world, so they try to get away from the real world. But certainly an option for getting rid of that hard-earned cash. Let's get real. Most player characters are going to spend a lot of time in the tavern. So boozing it up, drinking, all of that money away. I've got a friend right now who plays a character and does exactly that. All of their money goes into just drinking constantly. It's just a standing joke, basically, in our group. Now, here's the one that a lot of people really get upset about, because I think it's the one that they assume should be there in Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and it's not necessarily been built in hardwired into the game like it had been in Dungeons & Dragons 4e or 3.5 or version 3, and that is the sale or purchase of magic items, the magic item store or something like that. Now, I can totally understand that. Dungeon Master feeling like, Dungeons & Dragons 5 is supposed to make magic items feel rare and special, and I don't want people to be able to trade or buy and upgrade their magic items by just going down to the local store and buying something else. Totally understand that. But when it comes to magic item shops, you don't have to have permanent magic items. What I did is I tried that. It worked all right for a little while for me, and then what I did is I twisted it a little bit and decided, okay, but consumable magic items, those are sorts of things that can only be used once, and they have a function, and if I put a high enough price on them, I'm still chewing away and eating away at the player's character's money, which is good, okay? Now, if you don't want to make it open to the public, so you don't want it something that's sort of out in the open, you can just walk down the street and go to a shop and buy consumable magic items, then I totally understand. Then build a black market. The price is now tripled or quadrupled. So everything becomes vastly more expensive. Maybe the only way you can actually purchase magic items or sell a magic item is through a private auction with those people with the money to be able to afford to do that. Trading in magic items might be actually quite a difficult process and require knowing the right people to actually achieve that. Now, all of that being said, you don't have to use it. You can ignore the concept of trading and purchasing magic items to get rid of gold value and silver and copper and so forth. What about going with a different tact? And that is, don't they have horses or mounts of some kind? Will they not want to upgrade from the mount they had? Maybe if they're not upgrading their mount, maybe they want to get rid of the mount because it's gotten old or their mount perished, and yet the umpteenth fireball that the dungeon master threw at them causing the party to get seriously injured, but all of their mounts have all died and been burnt alive. So yes, you can use your money to buy an additional mount, an upgrade, or possibly just replace an existing one. So using all of these all together is going to work a lot better. What about, let's run a business. I, as a player, I could run a business and actually have it tied into my character. It makes a lot of sense. Something like running a tavern. Why not? Spend so much time in the tavern already. Why not own a tavern? Pay the employees. Try to bring in money from that. A shop that sells something. Maybe there's some sort of skill. Maybe you supply herbs, spices. Maybe you create something yourself. Maybe you write books. Who knows? Maybe you have your own farm or ranch. You could have a blacksmith. If you've got skills in that area, maybe you set up a business and have some people running that business for you, and you come in and, of course, oversee it when you're not adventuring. What about you provide your magical services to somebody, or you hire people to do that because you see that there's a hole in the market, an opening that you can create and cash in on. Or from all of those adventures you've had, all those monsters you've slayed, all those things you've explored, all of the statues and tablets and strange artifacts you've brought back, you can open up your own museum. Now people can see what you used to do and what you've brought back from your adventuring expeditions. Sounds kind of cool to me, if you ask me. I thought that was quite a good idea. What about, let's go with bribing. Look, when it comes to getting information and escaping from somebody who's vastly more powerful than you, or you need to get yourself into a secret or private location you can't normally access, then your money is going to get chewed up bribing. I remember trying to cross a bridge and we got into a lot of trouble. One of the players said, look, we want to get across. How much for you to leave us alone so we can cross the bridge so we don't have to engage in another battle? And the price was 1,000 gold pieces. Now, we made jokes about the whole thing for quite a long time, but still, we got across the bridge and fortunately nobody died. There's no way we could have fought the individuals who were guarding the bridge, and there was no easy way to get around. So really crossing a bridge and paying them off was really the only way we could achieve that as a goal. And we needed to get across that bridge. It was pretty important. So yes, and maybe you need to get into a masquerade party or see the king, and the king's not going to see you. You've got to pay all the underlings underneath the king to actually access the king. Or the queen. Could be any kind of monarchy you like. What about paying for services? There are so many different services that you could access. Now, not just the mundane, everyday services that I'm talking about. I mean high value services like healing or removing curses and diseases. Now, a lot of your characters will already be able to do that, so I understand if that doesn't seem to be like a sensible thing, but something like raising the dead or reincarnate or true resurrection, these are all things that could well be really important, and the players' characters might not have access to given their situation, but they have the money to be able to achieve that, provided there's somebody who can sell that service. So don't forget, paying for services is another good way. What about information? Now, we talked briefly about information, but often finding out what you need to do next comes down to having the right information. And unless the Dungeon Master drops that information right in your lap and it's nice and easy, you might have to go and pay somebody, because there are always people who will find out the information you need. You just have to pay enough for them to be able to line the pockets of the individuals who they need to get that information out of. And when you're dealing with secret information or stuff that's sort of a little bit underhanded or really important and worthwhile paying for, people will pay through the teeth, and the bribes to get that money out of them are going to increase. So information brokers, paying for an information broker could be quite expensive. Crafting magic items. Now, I'm not so much of a fan of crafting magic items nowadays. I've certainly done it in my Dungeons & Dragons 5e games, but crafting magic items takes a lot of time. Not only does it take a lot of time, it's expensive. It's very, very expensive. And if you can't find the time to do it yourself, but you are able to find some people who are able to do it for you, you might find that you need to have them enlisted for up to half a year or a year working on a particular project for you, and therefore that's quite an expensive process, even if you don't have your own downtime to actually achieve it yourself. And hiring somebody else to do that for you, if your Dungeon Master will allow it, is an expensive and long process. So crafting magic items dependent on how your Dungeon Master feels about that sort of thing. There are always times in an adventuring life where the stakes go up. Things get more important. Maybe the reason for you holding on to this cash is to keep the money out of somebody else's hands. And as it happens, Dragon Heist is a good example of this very, very situation. You might be using the money to fund a kingdom who needs money. They may be going out of business, or they might simply be running out of money and degrading over time. They need to upgrade their forces, their manpower or woman power, They might need to get some holes in the castle repaired or the walls surrounding the town. Maybe you're going to upgrade or help maintain your local temple. You're a cleric or somebody who's an acolyte of some kind, and you need to keep that going. So tithing is a good example too. Building an empire of your own, where you get to trade with other people. Yes, that's right. You could build your own empire of trade and wealth. Now, Acquisitions Incorporated is a very good example of this, where people essentially are building an empire around wealth by going adventuring, finding stuff, and then selling it off. And certainly that's one option of how you could go about doing it. Why not? Absolutely. Okay, this is where I think a lot of people don't understand. Now, my last couple of comments are really about the fact that I think a lot of people have forgotten what gold and wealth means. The ultimate process of having gold right now, and really has always been the case, and that has been that wealth is a bargaining chip with the dungeon master. You have all of this wealth. Wealth is power. You can achieve things. All you need to go and do is have a conversation with your dungeon master and ask them, what can I try to do? What are different things could I possibly do with this? Use your imagination. There might be other things I have not suggested that you can have a go at. All you've got to do is go and have a chat with your dungeon master and see what they will allow you to do. Now, I think the reason that people have sort of decided to fall back on the argument that there's nothing you can do with gold or wealth in Dungeons and Dragons 5e is actually a product of our time, the age that we currently live in. In the age we currently live in, where there are lots of video games and computer games, people just get lazy and they go straight for the video game concept of what you use gold for. And gold in a video game is used for upgrading your armor, your weapons, your gear. And of course, the assumption is that that should still exist in a Dungeons and Dragons 5e game. But it doesn't. This is a very limited concept. Remember, when it comes to a video game, being able to use your wealth and your money and your gold for other things outside of that is actually very, very difficult for them to sort of figure out how it would work. And you're only thinking about the application of how it will work in the game in terms of combat. Often it comes right down to just combat and maybe a bit of utility with regard to how you play your Dungeons and Dragons game. So I do feel to a large extent a lot of this comes down to just being a little bit lazy at times. But I know that it is a product of our time, the age we are in, and the fact that so many people play video games, and Dungeons and Dragons is not their first sort of dip. They don't dip their toes into Dungeons and Dragons first. They dip their toes into video games, and then they often come into playing something like Dungeons and Dragons at a later date. Okay, so I have hundreds of videos with advice for players and dungeon masters on Dungeons and Dragons and Dungeons and Dragons 5e, which you are welcome to go and check out if you feel like. I have a Patreon page where you can support the channel, so I keep doing videos like this. I have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online, and all of those I've got international links now, so you should be able to access just about anybody in the world. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos, and that does happen. Live streams do go unlisted. They don't stay up forever. Now, what I want to say in terms of the rest of this is you are welcome to ask questions from me. You can use the comments section to ask questions. I live stream so much, so my suggestion to you is use the live streams. When I'm live streaming, come and ask me. You can ask me any question you like. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I'm not gone. So hashtag question, or if you want feedback, you want to add something to the mix that you feel I might have forgotten or I needed to sort of include, absolutely do that. I'm just going to take a drink of water and get my glasses on so I don't have trouble reading things. Since the screen is a little bit further away than I would like at times. Okay, so let's rock into this, shall we? We'll just flick back over and go and have a look at our live chat. Whoa, she's busy today. Okay, so I know I've been away a long time, everybody, and so we're back into it. We're doing it. My voice is almost right. So remember, hashtag question. Let us whip through here as quickly as we possibly can. Invisible Moose, how's it going? Hey, just checking in. Hey, I'm glad to have you. It's awesome. I would be good if we could have a conversation. So if you have something you want to add, that's always good too. But if you're just checking in, that's fine too. So Nikki Nator, Ghosts of Salt Marsh has a magic item trader, with 5 random items at a time of certain Dungeon Master tables. Yes, well, yeah, certainly, yes, it does, and wouldn't be the. I mean, there's lots of ways you can incorporate. A lot of the adventures that have been published have sort of little bits and pieces where you can at times purchase a selection of magic items. Might be a very select few. Okay, it might be not a lot, but there's often a place where that can take place. And yes, Ghosts of Salt Marsh has that, the current adventure that's been released. So yes, good advice. Mike, how's it going? How do you treat gold in your campaign when it comes to how much they can take or carry? Okay, so you're talking about encumbrance. I knew that was going to come. Look, I don't really worry too much about encumbrance, but there is a point where, if there's like a gold statue and it's like 100 or 200 pounds, which has happened occasionally in the games that I've run, then I will tell them you can't carry that. No, it will not fit in the bag of holding. There's no way you can transport that. So what usually happens is, particularly when it comes to transporting gold and wealth and things of value that they want to sell off at a later date, what I tend to find is my players will say, okay, we're going to clear out this area. Once we've cleared out this area, we're coming back with horses, wagons, mules, whatever it takes, and we're cleaning the whole place out, and we'll leave some guards here to make sure nobody takes all of our stuff. That often tends to be the case. I don't usually fight that. I'm fine with them doing that, and I usually let it play out within the span of about 2 or 3 sentences from either their mouth or my mouth, and it's done. So that's usually how I deal with that. So if you were wondering how I treat, taking and carrying stuff, usually, I don't worry too much about encumbrance, and I don't usually count pounds or anything. But when things start getting a bit ridiculous, then I will apply some real world mechanics or physics to the game. But I don't usually fall back on that too often. Not unless it's really obvious. Okay, so moving along. Mike, I read that Nick, it was okay. I'm not too sure what that's all about, but okay, moving on. Yes, 50 coins equals £1 officially, I think. My players trade in their coins for platinum coins. Yes, you could upgrade them, but it's quite difficult to find a place where you can change over your coins. I know that at times the players have decided, look, we've got a lot of copper coins. That sometimes they'll leave the copper coins. If there's like 5,000 copper coins, they say, no, we're leaving that. We don't care about that. We're not going to transport it. It's a waste of our time. But often when they start accruing a fair amount of money, they'll go and see a money lender or a bank or somebody who trades in gems, and they'll trade their coins for gems, which are worth a lot more but much lighter as a transportation process. So they can store those a lot easier, and it doesn't take up so much space. The coins for platinum coins during long downtime to hoard it. But I do use weight for coinage to prevent taking entire dragon hordes. See, look, my feeling is if they defeated the dragon or drove it off, which is a very difficult proposition, if the dungeon master does their job properly, that's hard to do. I'm fine with them taking the whole horde. They just have to figure out how to do it. A lot of my players are always looking out for bags of holding so they can truck lots and lots of wealth into there, then transport it, then change it over from coins into gems. So yeah, but if you have an issue with them being able to take the entire dragon horde, then so be it. Sundry, you could try clipping the coins. Make them a little bit lighter. You just take a little bit off. Mike, yeah, I do the same. I use weight allowance based on rules as written. Okay, fair enough. Gems are a good way to convert as well. Yes, they are. Absolutely. How's it going, Persham? Moving down here. Okay, going out of... Okay, what's it? Persham, going out of business sale? Not sure what that's all about. You'll let me know. I don't understand. Moving on. We're heading down the line. They're heading down the line. Yeah, everything must go. Look, I have sold all sorts of items for high prices to my players, which turned out to be items that weren't quite what they were hoping for. Bit devious on my part as a dungeon master. I put a sale out on glass magic swords, which when you roll a 1 on your attack roll, they break, they shatter, and it can't be repaired with mending because there's too many pieces, and most of the pieces you never find again. So, of course, that means you have to go back and buy another one. That's why they're on sale. But that was more a sort of a bit of fun. Shop smart, shop at S-Mart. Yeah, that's the way. Blue light specials. Yes, blue light specials. Yes, put things on special. These specials are there for a reason. Use it to topple the government. Hire an army. Yes, you could have some hirelings. You don't really want them, people who can lug your stuff with you. Somebody to move your treasures around with you. Problem is they can tend to get destroyed by the likes of enemy fire, and particularly if you're dealing with casters with area effect spells like fireball and other things. But yes, you could hire an army and attack a location, or use an army to help prop up a government that's about to fall. Switch to high mage, Fred. Yeah, okay, all right, I will switch to high mage. I can do that. Okay, Mike, what do you got here? Great live stream, lots of great options for gold, thanks. All the great ideas. Look, can I just say that a lot of these ideas have already been presented by other YouTubers and are already out there. I mean, what I've talked about is nothing really that new, okay? It's in the books already, and I'm talking about Dungeons & Dragons 5e books. I'm not talking about older versions. A lot of these things have been talked about already. Matthew Colville has built a business around a book that is designed to chew up resources, monetary resources. So another really good example, Strongholds and Followers is a great example of those same sorts of ideas. It's really expensive to build a castle. It's really expensive to maintain a castle, and so therefore it's like a black hole where money will go and never be seen again. Easy to do. What's that? Chop it up with an axe and divvy it up between the party. Exactly. Why not? Mike, what are some great resources for DMs to use for upkeeping the cost of, let's say, running an inn? Well, Strongholds and Followers. I still feel like that's a really good example of how to deal with that. You'll find some reasonable resources in the Dungeon Master Guide for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I believe you'll find a bunch of stuff floating around, and problem is it's all spread out. It's all spread out all over the place. There's little bits and pieces in all of the books. Go through a lot of those books and you'll find bits and pieces. I've just pulled it all together into one place, essentially, so that you get at least sort of some ideas. I know what people are saying is like, I think somebody had come to me and said, look, can you explain to me how mechanically I would figure out how much it costs to run a business? It's a ridiculous question, and I'll tell you why. Not because they're ridiculous, but every business operates slightly differently. and you're starting to get a little bit too carried away about how to have your fantasy world function. Your fantasy world does not have to function with all of the different costs involved itemized down to the every single gold coin. Now you're counting beans. That is not really why I play Dungeons and Dragons. If that's why you am the sort of thing you want in terms of being a dungeon master, you have to go and do the homework on that one. I won't be doing that. Okay. Security job, yes, exactly. I thought 10 gold pieces equals £1. I can't remember. I don't have the book in front of me right now. I'm not, like I said, I don't usually get caught up in encumbrance. It's the sort of thing we used to do when I was playing 3.5 with a couple of the dungeon masters. 3.5, we'd have to count pounds. When we were playing Pathfinder, same thing applied. It really detracted me. I didn't really enjoy the game by doing that sort of thing. So I'm very more sort of spitball it and broad brush strokes rather than counting everything out. It's not really for me. Yeah, job security, glass swords. I like it was quite funny. It was a good way to get rid of their money. They went through swords quite quickly, to be honest. You know, I only had to roll a 20-sided dice 20 times and you're going to get a 1. Mike, how do you personally manage PC with a lot of gold? You mentioned you let them take the hoard. Do you find a point where there is too much money in your game? It can happen, but like I said, they've got to put it somewhere. And part of the story might be that, you know, the bank that they put the money into or where they buried it, it gets stolen. That's why I talked about thieving and why I talked about rulers, taxation. All of these things can come into play. Remember, when you go into somebody else's land, it's not your land. And so when you take a big treasure hoard from that location, there might well be a whole lot of other people who expect to be paid. Otherwise, the law comes down on you. So things to think about in terms of how you will work your game. That's kind of bringing in the concept of real world sort of dynamics. But honestly, usually players will come up with a way of spending it. I used consumable magic items. I put a high price on them. In some cases, they would have to travel to a specific location. It wasn't like there was a black market or a magic shop in every town. You had to go to a big city. Sometimes they would run out. Sometimes you'd have to wait. It's not like there was a warehouse where they just stockpiled everything. And yeah, my players got themselves into a lot of trouble trying to build up a stockpile of magic items. In particular, I think it was the bags of holding. They actually hired people to make them in the past. So they went back in time and then they waited. They figured it was going to take quite a long time to get a big sort of collection of magic items. And so 500 years later, they then show up to collect, making sure to do all the paperwork to make sure all of their investments are solid, only to find that when they started putting magic items into their bags, some of those magic items weren't magic items, they were bags of devouring. Lost a couple of characters that way. They got eaten and never seen again. Lost a lot of their items, all their magic items they stuck into the bags of devouring. Great way to get rid of stuff. Not a nice way to go. Certainly will tend to annoy players big time. And at one point, one of them said, you know, didn't somebody say that if you put a bag of holding into another bag of holding, you open up a singularity? What happens if I put 3 bags of holding into 1 bag of holding? So I had the whole world sort of get torn apart. You can do all sorts of fun things. And then, of course, they've got to start casting spells like Wish. And then, of course, their money sort of disappears very quickly after that. So all a lot of fun, if you ask me. And I enjoyed doing that sort of thing. It's fun. And it made the story really interesting. And with regard to how to make a story interesting, doing all those things that people were not expecting is a great way to make it work really, really, really well. And yeah, so that's my advice to you. Okay, so working my way back through here. Where are we? Remarkable Inns is a good resource. Okay, all right. Also start a sea merchant business or start a a saffron farm. Yeah, why not? Absolutely. I think those are all great ideas. There's a lot of people with great ideas, and I'm sure they will share their ideas with you. You could open your own dungeon and where adventurers die, and you can. Yeah, well, look, the Yawning Portal is a good example, right? The Yawning Portal is a great example of somebody who has built a tavern or inn over the top of a well that leads to a very dangerous location, and so yeah, a great resource. Dragon Heist has a tavern running bit. Yes, that's right. You get to have a tavern of your own. The Troll Skull Manor. Yes, that's right. Exactly. So I think this is a good time for me to truck off and go and do other things. I think we've covered everything that everybody wanted to talk about, which is great. I'm really, really happy about that. I will be back tomorrow. What will the topic be? I do not know. We'll to see how my voice and my body holds up to live streaming again. You will find this live stream does not stay active. It will go unlisted until I'm ready to release it as an edited version. All of the live stream content that I produce is going to be made available to patrons. So if you wanted to get access to all the Q&A at the end of a live stream, that's not going to be included in the edited versions. You have to be a patron to access that sort of stuff. Okay, all right. So, hey, thank you to everybody who showed up. It's been a lot of fun. I certainly hope that it was useful for you. So I'm going to say what I normally say, and that is, have a good day, morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are in the world. Look after your family and your friends and yourself. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.